Hello everyone and welcome to the EL112 coursebook. In this video we're going to be going over the first part of Unit 2. We're going to be going over collaboration. Alright, so before we start, let's talk about collaboration a little bit and ask ourselves some questions. What does the word collaboration mean? Collaboration basically means multiple people, two or more, working on a similar thing. Could be a project, could be an assignment, you name it. Okay, so based on what we just talked about, which kind of tasks do you think are better carried out in teams and which alone? I'd like you to pause the video and think about this for a second. Personally, I would say it depends because some people like to do certain tasks alone and others like to do the same tasks in groups or would prefer if they were in groups or as a team. Some of these include assignments. I'm personally someone that likes to do assignments alone. I know other people, a lot of people that prefer to do assignments in a group of 3, 4, 5, sometimes even up to 6 people, depending on the assignment itself. Also, projects at work. Some people like to do them alone. And again, others enjoy doing different aspects or having different people focus on very specific things in a project. And I'm actually a fan of the latter. I think projects are done better when there's multiple people involved. Let's go to the next question. What challenges arise when you collaborate with other people? Again, feel free to include your own challenges or things you've personally went with. For me, I would say the biggest one has to be communication. You see, people are different, especially in today's age where people communicate online with no facial expressions or, well, some people use emojis, but you don't really use it that much in a professional setting. So I think one of the biggest challenges is communicating with people and making sure you're on the same page. Perhaps you're someone that really values doing things at very specific times, and you have other people that wait till last minute. They don't really care that much, so this becomes a communication challenge. Okay, now let's go to the first page here. Exercise 2A, we're going to be talking about networking. Things like joining groups, establishing rapport, and ending conversations. Right. Before we go to the exercises, I'd like you guys to think about any experience that you've had going to network events. Have you gone to any network events? If you have, what were some of the things that you did? What did you learn? Who did you meet? All of these are questions that you should probably ask yourself. Now, I've personally went to a few network events. What are they for? They are there for you to meet new people in a professional, formal environment, and it helps you connect with people that could potentially buy your products if you're selling, offer you job opportunities if you're looking for a job, or to simply keep in contact so you know someone that works in a specific place that could be of help to you perhaps in the future, or someone else that you know, for example. What should you do at them? If you're at a networking event, it's a very good idea to actually go out there and introduce yourself, get to know people. I mean, that's the whole point. If you're going to go to a network event, it would be in your best interest to go out there and introduce yourself instead of standing still or just meeting one person and spending that whole time with them, because you're really then just missing the whole point of the networking event, basically. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about networking, let's go to exercise 2. Here we have, let's see what we have. So we have an audio. Listen to a tutor giving a seminar on networking skills to a group of third-year business studies students, and then answer the questions. All right, so we're going to be listening to a seminar that is teaching third-year business study students on networking skills. It's about 4.5 minutes, so I would like you to listen to the audio, get a general idea of what it's about, and then we'll answer these questions together afterwards. Okay, here we go.
So, now that you're all about to enter the job market, networking is going to be a really important skill for you. I know lots of you hate the idea, but that's why we're having this seminar to help you. You can't get by in today's business world unless you are good at networking, I'm afraid. Anyway, I'd like to hear your ideas and your worries before I start. What tips have you read about for networking?
I think it's important to dress appropriately and to have business cards, though that seems a bit pointless when you're not in business yet.
Well, you're absolutely right about dress. You aren't going to impress anyone if you turn up in the outfit you wear for going to the gym. As far as business cards are concerned, yes, they're useful. It's easier for a potential business contact or employer than expecting them to write all your details down. Just list your name and your contact details, email, mobile phone number, and web address if you've got one. What else?
I've got a worry, a big one. I actually went to a networking event last summer, and it was awful. I hung about for 15 minutes, and nobody talked to me. In the end, I felt so embarrassed, I just left.
I'm sorry to hear that, Gina. We're going to discuss ways to deal with that problem soon, so I hope that will help you. But first, any other tips or ideas?
I think you should put your mobile phone on silent. People will find it rude if you're talking to them and then you take a call.
Yes, I agree entirely. Keep the phone on silent unless there is something serious going on, like a family health emergency.
I have read lots of pages online about networking, but the information is kind of vague. I think I need some specific tips about how to get into conversations with people you don't know. After that first step, I think I'd be okay, as I'm a pretty sociable person.
Great. Well, that's what we're going to do now. How do you choose who to approach? And yes, you've got to take the first step. You can't just hang about waiting for people to come to you, as Gina found out. So when you enter the room where the event is taking place, look around and notice how people are standing. Alone, in pairs, in threes, or in larger groups. Who do you approach?
I think I'd choose a woman on her own.
OK, that's understandable. It's a safe choice as you're a female alone too. And you may meet someone really nice, but you could end up stuck with each other throughout the event. And the point is to meet as many people as you can. Mike, what would you do?
I think I'd choose a group of 3. If you approach 2 people, they might be having a really important, private conversation, and you would not be popular for barging in.
Good thinking. 3 is the right answer. But which 3? It seems people quite often end up in threes at these events. So which group do you choose? Have a look at this slide.
I don't know. Maybe the ones on the left?
OK, look at the body language. If they're standing close together in a triangle, all facing in towards each other, that means they're having a good conversation and it won't be easy to break in. You need to find a group that is standing in a more open shape, like a V. That's a group that will be happy for other people to join it. Oh, and choose a group that has at least one woman in it. Research shows that in groups, women are more welcoming to outsiders than men.
Wow, that really makes sense.
Okay, but what do you say when you go up to them?
It's simple. You just say, "Hi, I'm Laura. May I join you?"
All right, so that was the audio. Very insightful. Now, let's go to the questions here. Are Any of your ideas from exercise 1 mentioned by the tutor or her students? If your ideas were mentioned, that's great. Some of mine were. I think it was the one where they said, or the tutor said, you're at a networking event to meet as many people as possible, so don't get stuck with just one person. And for B, which picture illustrates the type of group you should join at a networking event? Okay, so based on the audio, you don't want to intrude on two people because they could be having a private, interesting conversation, and it would feel very off if you suddenly barged in. You always want to pick a triangle, but which type of triangle? A closed off triangle is, again, perhaps they're having an interesting discussion and they wouldn't be as open to you joining. So you want a triangle that is further apart and includes at least one woman, because based on the audio, research shows that having at least one woman, or women in general, are more welcoming to strangers than men. So this would be E. Here we have the triangle. They're further away from each other, and there's one woman. Okay? Now let's go to the next page. We have exercise 3. Okay. Read the tips for networking and complete the sentences. Then listen to the seminar again and check. Okay, so we're going to do this a little bit differently. What I would like you to do is, now that you have a general idea of what the audio was about, we're actually going to be listening to it again, but now I would like you to focus on very specific details. Fill in the blanks in this poster right here. So these are some of the tips that the tutor has talked about in the seminar. I would like you to focus on the missing words and complete them as you're listening. Okay? So I'll play it one more time. Take out a pen and paper if you have to, and listen for detail. Here we go.
So, now that you're all about to enter the job market, networking is going to be a really important skill for you. I know lots of you hate the idea, but that's why we're having this seminar to help you. You can't get by in today's business world unless you are good at networking, I'm afraid. Anyway, I'd like to hear your ideas and your worries before I start. What tips have you read about for networking?
I think it's important to dress appropriately and to have business cards, though that seems a bit pointless when you're not in business yet.
Well, you're absolutely right about dress. You aren't going to impress anyone if you turn up in the outfit you wear for going to the gym. As far as business cards are concerned, yes, they're useful. It's easier for a potential business contact or employer than expecting them to write all your details down. Just list your name and your contact details, email, mobile phone number, and web address if you've got one. What else?
I've got a worry, a big one. I actually went to a networking event last summer, and it was awful. I hung about for 15 minutes and nobody talked to me. In the end, I felt so embarrassed, I just left.
I'm sorry to hear that, Gina. We're going to discuss ways to deal with that problem soon, so I hope that will help you. But first, any other tips or ideas?
I think you should put your mobile phone on silent. People will find it rude if you're talking to them and then you take a call.
Yes, I agree entirely. Keep the phone on silent unless there is something serious going on, like a family health emergency.
I have read lots of pages online about networking, but the information is kind of vague. I think I need some specific tips about how to get into conversations with people you don't know. After that first step, I think I'd be okay, as I'm a pretty sociable person.
Great. Well, that's what we're going to do now. How do you choose who to approach? And yes, you've got to take the first step. You can't just hang about waiting for people to come to you, as Gina found out. So when you enter the room where the event is taking place, look around and notice how people are standing. Alone, in pairs, in threes, or in larger groups. Who do you approach?
I think I'd choose a woman on her own.
OK, that's understandable. It's a safe choice as you're a female alone too. And you may meet someone really nice, but you could end up stuck with each other throughout the event. And the point is to meet as many people as you can. Mike, what would you do?
I think I'd choose a group of 3. If you approach 2 people, they might be having a really important private conversation, and you would not be popular for barging in.
Good thinking. 3 is the right answer. But which 3? It seems people quite often end up in threes at these events. So which group do you choose? Have a look at this slide.
I don't know. Maybe the ones on the left?
OK, look at the body language. If they're standing close together in a triangle, all facing in towards each other, that means they're having a good conversation and it won't be easy to break in. You need to find a group that is standing in a more open shape, like a V. That's a group that will be happy for other people to join it. Oh, and choose a group that has at least one woman in it. Research shows that in groups, women are more welcoming to outsiders than men.
Wow, that really makes sense.
Okay, but what do you say when you go up to them?
It's simple. You just say, "Hi, I'm Laura. May I join you?"
All right, so now that we've listened to the audio again, now let's go over the tips together, and I hope you were able to get the words, but if not, that's okay. We'll go over them together again. So before you go to the event, dash appropriately. For example, dash clothes that you would wear to the gym. So this would be dress appropriately. For example, don't wear clothes that you would wear to the gym. Be ready to offer dash to potential employers and business contacts. As in the picture, this would be business cards. So be ready to offer business cards to potential employers and business contacts. These should contain your dash, such as email addresses and mobile phone numbers. This would be contact details. When you get to the event, keep your dash on silent. This one is pretty simple. Keep your phone on silent. Approach dash, don't dash for them to come to you. We'll say approach people, don't wait for them to come to you. If you guys remember, approach groups of 3. That is correct. Approach groups of 3 people that contain at least 1 woman. That is correct. Choose groups that are standing in an open V shape rather than a closed triangle like we saw in the previous pictures. Your opening line should be, "Hi, I'm Ahmed. May I join you?" Okay, so you say, "Hi, I'm your name," and then "may I join" is the word missing. Okay. Now, if we were to discuss the tips for a second, are these actually useful and are they appropriate where you live? For me personally, I think these tips are very useful and they are appropriate where I live. I think dressing appropriately is a big deal. You don't show up looking like you just woke up or in clothes that you would work out in, for example. Again, not very formal of you and not even polite, to be honest. Again, it's a good idea to have business cards so that it is much easier to just give potential employers and business contacts instead of having them write down your number and saving your contact or your email. It saves the hassle. Keeping your phone on silent is a big one as well. Again, especially if you're someone that gets a lot of notifications or A lot of people that call you constantly, it could be a real conversation killer if it's just constant notifications or constantly having someone call you. So that's a good tip as well. And a big one, of course, is approaching people. Like we said before, don't wait for people to come to you. They won't. You have to go out of your way to meet people and actually talk to them. And again, approach groups of 3. This is the first time I've actually heard of this, but it's very unique and I like it. So I'll probably try this in my personal life in my next networking event. Again, approach groups of 3 and people that contain at least one woman. If you're at a networking event that doesn't have a lot of women, that simply might not be feasible, and that's okay. But generally, you want at least one woman. What else? And then your opening line could simply be, "Hi, I am Dash, and may I join you?" So, great tips overall. Now let's go to the next part. Let's see what we have here. Here we have exercise 5. Listen to the tutor play 2 recordings from a networking seminar. Both show a different approach to talking to new contacts. Which do you think is more effective and why? Okay, so we're going to be listening to 2 different recordings of a networking seminar. And there's 2 very different approaches to talking to new people. Let's listen to both of them. And I would like you to pause the video and think about which one is more effective and give a reason for why you think that is. Okay, so let's listen.
Okay, so we have identified which group of people you are going to join. Now, let's listen to 2 different people who join a group that has already formed at a networking event. I'll take your comments after we've heard both short dialogues. Here's the first one.
It's certainly child-friendly with all those play areas and faster lanes through the security check.
Well, I think they've catered too much for families travelling with children.
And not enough for business people.
Yes, exactly. After all, we travel more regularly and...
Hi, may I join you?
Certainly. We were just talking about the new terminal at the airport. Have you seen it?
No, I'm afraid not. But I have heard mixed opinions about it. What do you think?
Well, I was just saying that it has been designed more for people travelling with children than for business people.
And I agree entirely.
I see. So do you all travel a lot on business?
And here's the second.
It's certainly child-friendly with all those play areas and faster lanes through the security check.
Well, I think they've catered too much for families travelling with children.
And not enough for business people.
Yes, exactly. After all, we travel more regularly and...
Hi, may I join you? Certainly. Thanks. My name is Michelle Franks, and I've just opened a catering business in town, right in the heart of the business district. We make sandwiches and salads, and we can deliver straight to your office, or you can come to us and take food away. We also do catering for parties and special events. Here, let me give each of you one of my business cards.
All right, so that was the audio. Now, we've heard both recordings from the networking seminar. It's a very different approach that each one of them took to talking to new contacts. I would like you to pause the video and think about what you think is more effective. All right, so I'm gonna continue the video as if you did that. I would personally, honestly, I would choose the second one. I feel like the second one was a better approach because, like, she got straight to the point about what she wanted to do. She didn't take too long. Yes, she could have listened to what they had to say or at least joined on the conversation first, but I like how she was straight to the point and hey, this is me, yada, yada, yada. I own this. And if you'd like, you can come by and we do this and we offer that. And then gave them her business card. As opposed to the guy, which joined in, didn't really contribute much to the conversation. He was attentive, but again, I don't know. I felt like the straightforward approach of the second person was better. Okay, so now that we've gotten 5 out of the way, let's take a look at exercise 6. Let's see what we have here. Okay. So the 4 students in the seminar and their tutor had different opinions about talking to new contacts. Listen and note which newcomer at the networking event each student preferred and the reason. All right, so what we're going to be doing here is I'm going to be playing the audio. You're going to hear 5 people, so 4 students and their tutor having mixed opinions about talking to new contacts. So they're going to be talking about people like we just did and why they think or why they have different opinions and the reasons. What I would like you to do is tick which one of them like each person. So some of them might like the young man or the woman, and you need to write the reason for why they chose. Remember, this is not your reasoning, this is theirs. So listen to what Rachel has to say, tick the one that she chose and her reasoning. Okay? So I'll play this first. I would like you to listen, and you could even go back in the video if you have to listen to it one more time, and then we'll go over the answers together. All right, here we go.
So, which do you think was better?
I liked the woman in the second example. She didn't waste time, and she was really clear about who she was and what she was selling. I disagree. I think she risked making everyone else angry. They were in the middle of a conversation about the airport, and she just came in and dominated everything. She didn't even find out if those people worked in the business district.
I agree. I think she was rude. The young man was polite and interested in other people's opinions.
Yes, but he said nothing about himself.
I don't think that's important. People think you're nice if you listen to what they're saying, and they may give you a job or buy your products if they like you.
Well, I think this is a situation in which one's culture is very important. I can't speak with authority about other countries and cultures, but I do think that, in Britain, we appreciate people who show interest in other people. In other words, we tend to like and trust people who ask questions and listen to the answers before talking a lot about themselves. And, as Mike said, if you can get people to like and trust you, they may offer you a job later or want to buy whatever it is that you're selling.
All right, so that was the audio, and based on the audio, I got clearly outnumbered for my decision to support the woman that talked about herself first. But that's okay. It's all different approaches. What I'm gonna do, because there's not enough space here, so we're gonna go over the choices first, and then we'll write the reasons in a notepad. So Rachel, which was the first woman, preferred the woman. Gina disagreed. She liked the young man more. Faisal also disagreed with Rachel and chose the young man. And Mike also was in support of the young man. So only Rachel and me preferred the woman. As for the reasoning, I'm actually going to do this in a notepad so that we have more space. All right, so we'll do Rachel, and her reasoning was that the woman didn't waste time, if you guys remember, and was clear about who she was and what she was selling. Okay, so that was Rachel's reasoning. Now let's go to Gina's Gina's reasoning was that she chose the young man because they were in the middle of a conversation and she came in and dominated everything. So her reasoning and why she didn't like the woman was because they were in the middle of a conversation and she came in and dominated everything. Okay. Now let's go to Faisal, which also chose the young man, and his reasoning was he chose the young man because he was polite and interested in other people's opinions. Okay? And finally, Mike also chose the young man, and his reasoning was because the young man didn't have to talk about himself as he was listening to them talk about themselves. He's basically showing interest in other people, and the tutor obviously agreed with Mike, especially on a cultural level in the UK. Okay, so these were the reasons. Now, let's go to the next page. Here we have exercise 7. Let's see here. Okay. Ending conversations at networking events can be difficult. Listen to 3 speakers ending a conversation and answer the questions. In which conversation does the speaker... Okay, so we have 4 different things that are going to be happening in 3 different conversations. Okay? We're going to be listening to 3 different conversations, and we have to highlight in which one did they remember and use the other person's name, use an excuse to leave the conversation, end the conversation politely, and want to develop a business relationship with the other person. Okay, so let's listen to the 3 speakers and highlight each conversation, 1, 2, or 3, based on what they did. Okay, so I'll play this and then we'll go over the answers together. Here we go.
Okay, so finally, what do you do if you've been talking to somebody at a networking event for a long time and you want to end the conversation? I'm going to play you 3 different recordings. Here's the first.
But then we found that if we just adjusted the size of the packaging slightly, by that I mean 5 millimeters narrower on the top edge, and made it 8 millimeters longer from top to bottom, then it was possible to solve that problem.
I see. Oh, excuse me. Somebody seems to be calling me. My phone's in my pocket and I felt to vibrate. Let me see. Yes, this is a really important call. I've got to go. Sorry.
This is the second.
But then we found that if we just adjusted the size of the packaging slightly, by that I mean 5 millimeters narrower on the top edge, and made it 8 millimeters longer from top to bottom, then it was possible to solve that problem.
Well, I'm glad to hear you worked it out in the end. So, Tom, it was a pleasure to meet you. I need to talk to some other people too, but I'd like to continue our conversation some other time. May I have your business card and I'll give you a call within the next couple of days?
And the third.
But then we found that if we just adjusted the size of the packaging slightly, by that I mean 5 millimeters narrower on the top edge, and made it 8 millimeters longer from top to bottom, then it was possible to solve that problem.
Well, I'm glad to hear you worked it out in the end. So, it's been a pleasure chatting to you, but I'm sure you want to meet some other people. And I need to mingle too. I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.
Okay, so now that we've listened to the three different speakers ending a conversation. Let's go over A, B, C, and D. So, which of them remembered to use the other person's name? If you guys remember the woman when she mentioned Tom's name, that was the second speaker. So the second conversation. Which one of them used an excuse to leave the conversation? That is correct. It was one when her phone started vibrating and she could feel it and she had to take it. So that's an excuse to leave the conversation. Which of them ended the conversation politely? That would be the third speaker when he politely acknowledged what was being said, but said he needed to mingle as well, and the other person needs to find other people. So that's a polite way of ending the conversation. And finally, who wanted to develop a business relationship with the other person? That would be the second speaker, the woman. The woman wanted to end the conversation, but she was being very polite about it. And at the same time, she used his name and asked for his contact details, or rather, business card, so that she could continue the conversation at a later time. Okay? So, this was exercise 7. Now, let's go to exercise 8, see what we have. All right. We're going to be listening to 2 of these conversations again, but this time I would like you to focus on the specific details being said so that you can fill in the blanks. All right? So take out a pen and paper and write these down as you hear from the audio. Here we go.
So, Tom, it was a pleasure to meet you. I need to talk to some other people too, but I'd like to continue our conversation some other time. May I have your business card and I'll give you a call within the next couple of days?
Well, I'm glad to hear you worked it out in the end. So, it's been a pleasure chatting to you, but I'm sure you want to meet some other people. And I need to mingle too. I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.
All right, let's go over these one by one. So Tom dashed to meet you. She said it was a pleasure to meet you. I need to dash too. I need to, she said, talk to some other people too. But dash our conversation some other time. But I'd like to continue our conversation some other time. And then for the second conversation, C, dash business card. Or actually, this is still the first conversation. May I have your business card? Now we're in the second conversation. So it's been dashed to you. It's been a pleasure chatting to you. But I'm sure dash some other people. You want to meet some other people. And I dash mingle too. I need to mingle too. I hope dash the rest of the day. We'll say I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Okay? So this was exercise 8. Let's see what else you have here. Okay, before we end this unit, let's take a look at the pronunciation here with, or in the focus rather. Let me just open it. So, we have little words that we use differently in different contexts and with different pronunciation, and these words are okay and so. So they have different meanings as I just used it, depending on how you use it and when you use it in a sentence. So I'd like you to listen to each phrase in the video and repeat these phrases once more and notice how they sound different depending on the context that they're being used in. So let's listen together.
A.
I think I'd be okay.
B.
So, when you enter the room,
C.
OK, that's understandable.
D. OK, so we have identified which group. E.
So, it's been a pleasure chatting to you.
All right, so you guys notice, depending on when you say it, it comes across very different. So if I say, I think I'd be okay, you notice how that okay took longer? It means I'll be fine. I think I'd be fine. But if I say, okay, that's understandable, that is me acknowledging that it's understandable. So not even close to the same meaning. Okay? So when you enter the room, me saying, so when you enter the room, is very similar to so, it's been a pleasure chatting with you. One of them is explaining something, one of them is telling someone that basically it was a pleasure to meet them. So depending on when you say it, or use so and okay, can have different meanings because of the context, and that also changes the way they're pronounced. All right? Now let's go to exercise 9. We have one more exercise here. Here we have a few words that we've heard throughout the unit, and we'd like to find the definitions. So let's start with a noun, which is body language. What is body language? Body language is communication using physical movement and gestures rather than words. So when I tell you, I can read your body language, you don't want to be here, that means you're communicating to me that you don't want to be in this conversation through physical movement. Perhaps your legs are pointed outwards, or they're pointed towards somewhere else. Basically, hand gestures show that you're not lying, or rather lying if you lack gestures, things like that. So this is called body language. Then we have B, the verb collaborate. Collaborate, like we said in the beginning of the unit, if you guys remember, we said it means to work with other people on something. So work together. Okay? And then we have the noun of the verb collaborate, which becomes collaboration. And collaboration means the something that is produced with someone else. So no, sometimes you hear like a collaboration between I don't know, Pepsi and F1, for example. This is just off the top of my head. So it was a collaboration that brought you this product between, for example, two companies or two people, or two, it could be on a massive scale, such as companies, or on a much smaller scale of like two people, for example. So collaboration is something produced with someone else. Outfit. Outfit is basically clothes worn for a particular occasion. So when I say, does this outfit suit me for a networking event? That is basically me asking if the clothes that I'm going to wear are good for that particular occasion. And then finally, we have report. Report is a close understanding relationship with someone. Okay? So this was exercise 9. These were some of the words and their definitions. And I think this concludes Unit 2A. I hope you guys had a good time. I hope you learned something new. If you have any questions, do let me know, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.